Envision the devastation of losing it all in a single night, your home, your cherished memories, your very sense of security, and the only response from your family is an echoing silence. Silence on the line. There are no messages, simply silence. What actions would you take? Today, I present to you a tale that ignites with flames and concludes with liberation, and believe me, this is one you won't want to overlook. Before we embark on this journey, do take a moment to tap that like button and subscribe to the channel. This piece is unfiltered and authentic, potentially prompting a re-evaluation of the true essence of family. Allow me to transport you to that fateful evening, the evening when the flames transformed everything. As the flames consumed my home, I reached out to the family chat. We are unharmed, yet we have lost it all. Silence reigns. An hour later, my brother had tagged everyone in the photos. The most unforgettable family weekend. No one appeared. Weeks later, still residing in a shelter, my phone erupted with 101 missed calls and a message from Susan Miller. Your immediate assistance is required. The amount is merely $6,800. Without a moment's hesitation, I observed the flames dance up the side of the garage as if it were merely a matchstick. The orange glow illuminated the scene, smoke spiraling into the night sky, accompanied by the shattering sound of something breaking, likely the old television in the den, all merging into a surreal, slow-motion chaos. The shouts of the neighbors had faded into an indistinct murmur, barely registering in my consciousness. It felt as though the entire world had submerged beneath the waves. My wife had swiftly taken our son and made her exit. I lingered, driven by instinct, to inspect each room thoroughly. Uninspired, there's nothing noble in the struggle to breathe amidst the smoke, all for the sake of salvaging what one cannot even hold. I seized my phone and wallet, and that was all there was to it. Absent are the garments, the captured moments, the keepsake of the ceremony. I stepped out of the house, my feet unshod, inhaling the remnants of smoke that lingered in my lungs, while the metallic tang of copper danced on my tongue. As we stood on the opposite side of the street, enveloped in the rough embrace of Red Cross blankets, I found myself grappling with the whirlwind of events that had just unfolded. Firefighters navigated the scene with precision, extinguishing the final flickers of fire, communicating through radios, and hauling away charred beams from what was once my garage. As I cast my gaze downward, I became acutely aware of the tremors coursing through my hands. Fear did not grip me, merely empty, as if a part of my very essence had been hollowed away. I recall my son inquiring, "Where's my room?" My wife remained silent. She gracefully knelt beside him, enveloping him in her embrace. In that moment, I retrieved my phone. I initiated the family group chat. Myself, my parents, my brother Ryan, and my sister Emily. It's the very same one we rely on for celebrations, urgent matters, and sharing those memes that fell flat. I refrained from overanalyzing it. I simply expressed what was significant. We are unharmed, yet we have lost it all. Delivered. Peruse. That was the end of it all. I anticipated a call to come through without delay. Perhaps my own Susan Miller, perhaps Ryan Miller, perhaps Emily Miller. I anticipated inquiries, a sense of worry, perhaps even a touch of astonishment. Silence prevails. The read receipts lingered, a silent challenge hanging in the air. No typing indicators. Silence prevails. Only silence. That night, we found ourselves relocated to a makeshift shelter, a gym transformed into a crisis center, filled with cots, bottled water, and a woman persistently inquiring about any asthma or injuries we might have. I endeavored to maintain my composure for the sake of my wife and son. My son drifted off to sleep, resting his head gently in my lap. My wife remained composed. She continued to massage her temples, as if the weight in her skull was an unbearable burden. Once more, I unlocked my phone. There has been no word from the family yet. I pondered. Perhaps they are in slumber. Perhaps they are in the midst of processing. Perhaps they are en route. About an hour later, I found myself opening Instagram, driven by some mindless impulse. I simply desired an object to gaze upon. For just a fleeting moment, I sought to escape the weight of emotion. The initial post that caught my attention was by Ryan Miller. A complete carousel. 10 photographs. He, my parents, my sister, all gathered at a serene lake house. Joyful laughter fills the air, the grill sizzles, and drinks are raised in celebration. Shirts in perfect harmony, even a silly photograph of my Robert Miller donning floaties. Notified all parties involved. Annotated, the most unforgettable family weekend. I remained utterly still, my eyes unblinking. I simply gazed at it, each photograph sharper than the one before. All around me, smiles bloomed as if they had completely forgotten my existence. Silence surrounds the flames, no comment, indeed. Contemplating Jake Miller. Alternatively, I am holding you in my thoughts and prayers. The message had been seen by them. It would have been read by them, and they had moved on. I presented the phone to my wife. Not a single word escaped her lips. She merely shook her head and turned her gaze elsewhere. For the following 3 nights, we found refuge in that shelter. The arrival of FEMA was noted. Our neighbors graciously provided us with clothing, meals, and even a couple of toys for my son. During his off hours, a firefighter stopped by with a pizza, sharing that he had also experienced a fire in his childhood. Those unfamiliar faces offered me more than my own kin ever did. No one from my end made a call. No one came by. Silence prevails. Time slipped away, week by week. My son no longer inquires about our return home. He began to summon the cot, the bed that belonged to him. My wife's parents made the journey from Queens, New York. They assisted us in locating a cozy little apartment. No requests were made. Robert Miller extended a prepaid card to me, asserting that it was not an act of charity, but rather a gesture of respect. That word struck me with a force unlike any other: honor. It had been years since I experienced that from my own family. I embarked on the journey of reconstruction, truly, engaging in various odd jobs, labor tasks, and handyman gigs to keep my head above water as I await the processing of my insurance. As the night settled in, following a day spent mending a roof in Brooklyn, New York, I glanced at my phone. 101 missed calls. Everything originates from my family chat. And one text from my Susan Miller. As if it had been extracted from an entirely different realm. Your presence is urgently required. It amounts to merely $6,800. That was the Susan Millerant, in that very moment. This time, my hands remained steady. My stomach remained steady. I found myself gazing at that message for what felt like an eternity, reflecting on the fact that they never reached out when I lost it all. And now they reach out, seeking something from me. That night marked the final moment I regarded them as my family. I hesitated before responding. I allowed the phone to rest on the kitchen counter of our modest apartment, its screen illuminating every few moments, as if it were mocking me. Additional messages began to arrive from my sister. Kindly refrain from complicating matters unnecessarily. By Ryan Miller. It stands in solitude. Relax. And once more, from my Susan Miller. We are aware that you possess it. Jake Miller. Refrain from being overly theatrical. Intense. They observed as I lost it all. I observed my wife and son slumbering on plastic mattresses within the confines of a shelter. We disappeared from the map for weeks, and silence was all that followed. Then, when they required something, I re-emerged into view once more, not in the capacity of an individual, merely akin to a wallet. For the past decade, I had been rescuing them from every predicament. The sneaker brand my brother launched, for which I took on the burden of shipping costs, ultimately did not succeed. The tuition for my sister's nursing program, a burden she faced when she found herself ineligible for financial aid. The second car my parents acquired when they chose not to part with the boat. Not once, not a single time, had any of them expressed gratitude without some hidden agenda. It was anticipated. I felt as though I was indebted to them simply for being alive. I chose not to respond. Instead, I delved into my banking applications. Silently, with an icy demeanor, I severed all ties, unlinking them from every account I had previously associated with them. The shared savings I established for my brother's business emergencies? Shut. The credit card utilized by my parents for their grocery excursions. Yet, curiously, There were extravagant acquisitions made bi-weekly. It has been canceled. I removed my name from the lease I had co-signed for my sister's apartment in Westwood. From this point forward, let the landlord handle her affairs. They would not perceive it immediately. Yet, they would, and when the moment arrived, they would understand precisely why. The messages continued to pour in. When I blocked him, Ryan Miller attempted to reach out via Facebook Messenger. My sister left voicemails declaring, "We're family, Jake Miller." My Susan Miller crafted an entire paragraph detailing my transformation and the way I allowed my wife to take the reins. The final segment nearly brought a smile to my face. My wife, the singular soul who remained steadfast by my side amidst the flames, both in reality and in spirit. She never once sought anything beyond respect. Not once did they dictate how I should handle my family. Yet, in this moment, she had become the antagonist, as I no longer poured my resources into their existence without question. At last, my Robert Miller made contact. The man remained silent, his voice lost since the flames had danced around him. He recorded a message that lasted scarcely a minute. Yet, I absorbed every moment of it. "You are severing ties with your own kin. Jake Miller, do you really believe that those on the outside will give a thought when it truly matters? This decision will haunt you." I listened to that message on repeat, twice. In that moment, I preserved it. I'm uncertain of the reason. Perhaps as a means of self-remembrance. Yet, the moment for guilt had long since passed. It is now beyond the point of reconsideration. They had unmistakably delineated the hierarchy of importance, revealing who held significance and who remained in the shadows. The flames consumed more than just my home. It laid bare all that was hidden. Years spent in service, overlooked, anticipated to provide endlessly without hesitation. With the ATM now shut down, I found myself cast in the role of the villain. That evening, I gazed around the modest apartment, where my wife was assisting our son with his homework at the kitchen table we had acquired for free from Craigslist. I inquired of her, "Do you believe I made the right choice?" She remained silent. She merely nodded, as if the very notion of a question was superfluous. That night, I finally drifted into slumber, unburdened for the first time in years, free from the heavy weight of obligation pressing against my chest. Upon the dawn of a new day, a fresh message awaited me. From my sister, "Regret will surely find you when the moment arises that you seek our assistance." I left it unopened. For the first time, clarity washed over me, revealing truths I had previously overlooked. I have never found them necessary. They merely ensured that I believed I had. Once I severed all connections, the silence that enveloped me was anything but tranquil. The approach was calculated. As if they were gathering their thoughts, attempting to navigate the unfamiliar terrain of my new self. The one who stood firm and unyielding. The individual who had at last mastered the art of refusal. Yet, it wasn't long before the initial fissures began to emerge. Once more, my sister reached out, a week having passed since our last exchange. This time sharing a screenshot of her eviction notice. A photo, devoid of greeting or explanation, accompanied by a brief two-line message, "I hope you're happy. This is a consequence of your actions." I chose not to respond. On that very day, my brother took to his stories to unleash a passionate tirade about individuals who allow wealth to transform their essence. I found myself tagged. My wife was, too. Though he never uttered our names, the implication was unmistakable. He interspersed phrases such as, "fake loyalty," and "blood is meant to signify something." Subsequently, he shared a GoFundMe campaign aimed at raising funds for a new car, following the unexpected breakdown of his old vehicle. I brushed past it, returning to the rhythmic motion of sanding a piece of reclaimed wood. On weekends, I found myself assisting my wife's uncle in the art of furniture building. Unadorned, yet sincere. Compensated adequately, it provided me with a tangible connection, something substantial to grasp. That was exactly what I required. Then arrived the voicemail from my Susan Miller. This time, I choose not to raise my voice. Only tears. She mentioned their struggles with bills, how my Robert Miller's hours had been reduced, and that they never requested anything beyond my means. She claimed that she no longer recognized me. I felt a chill enveloping me. I found myself transforming into a man destined to face solitude, filled with bitterness and emptiness, devoid of family. That one struck a chord with me. I lingered with it for a time. I contemplated reaching out to her. I contemplated revealing it all to her. I had been submerged for years, ensuring others stayed above water. All the while they were puncturing the vessel beneath us. The fire left me untouched. It merely revealed my essence. However, I did not make the call. I anticipated the course the conversation would take. She would weep. Guilt would weigh heavily upon me. I would extend an offering, and then I would find myself right where I began, shattered in an alternate manner. Meanwhile, on our end, progress was unfolding. Gradually, yet progress is made. My wife's parents have extended an invitation for us to stay with them for a while. Initially, I resisted, fueled by my pride. Yet their persistence wore me down. "You have a child," Susan Miller said. "There is no need for you to demonstrate anything." Thus, we took the step of moving in. For the first time in years, I sensed a genuine joy in someone's presence, a heartfelt welcome that made our being there feel significant. On the first weekend, my father-in-law welcomed my son to assist him in constructing a birdhouse. My wife, Susan Miller, welcomed us into every meal as if we had always belonged to the family. They refrained from inquiring about the circumstances surrounding my parents. They provided us with both the room to grow and the encouragement we needed. The disparity was striking. One morning, as I savored my coffee on the back porch, my father-in-law shared a thought that has lingered in my memory ever since. He shared with me, "One cannot ignite their own flame merely to provide warmth for others." Jake Miller. They will persistently request additional firewood. Indeed, he was correct. During that week, I took the formal step of filing to extricate myself from the family trust. My name appeared on an overwhelming number of documents. Excessive accounts abound. Countless entangled threads from a life I had long since abandoned. I desired everything to be severed, pristine. The paperwork required a considerable amount of time. Yet, what of the sensation? Immediate. At last, I experienced a profound sense of belonging within my own being. 2 nights later, an unexpected event unfolded. A knock echoed through the stillness, reverberating against the door. My wife peered through the peephole, her body tensing in response. "Your brother is on the line." I had not laid eyes on him since the time before the flames consumed everything. The door creaked open, revealing what lay beyond. He appeared utterly disheveled, hair in disarray. Dark circles linger beneath his eyes. Clad in a hoodie that likely cost me a small fortune ages ago, he remained silent for a moment. He glanced beyond me, as if assessing the life I had constructed in his absence. Then he uttered those words, "Will you truly allow us to sink beneath the waves like this?" I chose not to respond. As I emerged into the open air, I closed the door softly behind me and descended the porch stairs, moving past him with purpose. He trailed behind. What transpired next, in the quiet of the driveway, was the moment I understood the profound depths of the connection. He trailed behind me down the driveway in silence, as if he were uncertain how to navigate the presence of the me who was keeping him at bay. His footsteps lingered, as if he anticipated that I would pause and glance back. I did not. I strolled to the boundary of the yard and paused, anticipation hanging in the air. The atmosphere was serene, punctuated only by the gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze and the distant bark of a dog echoing through the stillness. At last, he found his voice. "They believe you mean it this time." I shifted my gaze in his direction, calm and composed, merely weary. "I exist." He remained unyielding. "They are in a state of panic. Susan Miller is hardly uttering a word. Robert Miller is furious. Emily Miller is once more embracing her role as the victim." A brief, amused exhalation escaped my nostrils, astounding. "No, listen," he urged. "I did not arrive with the intention of pleading. I have come to share with you a piece of information that you may not be aware of." He hesitated, as if contemplating the decision to speak. Then he uttered a remark that took me by surprise. I had intended to arrive that evening, just as the fire broke out. I found myself already seated in the car. My gaze fixed upon him. What comes next? Robert Miller has made a call. He advised me against leaving. That brought me to a standstill. Did he instruct you not to come? When did you realize that my house was engulfed in flames? He gave a slight nod. It was advised not to indulge in it. It seems you might have been seeking a bit of attention. You assured me that you would be all right, that our presence would only exacerbate the situation. Susan Miller lent her support to him. Words eluded me in that moment. For a fleeting moment, I questioned whether I had truly grasped his words. Yet he persevered. They believed you were embellishing the truth. You mentioned that you'd manipulate everyone's emotions to extract money from them once more. It wasn't until a week later that they finally came to terms with the reality of the damage. At that point, they concluded it was beyond the moment for action. I remained quiet for an extended period. The photos came into view before their eyes. I declared at last. My message was read by them. Indeed, he remarked, they simply refused to accept the truth. It has been said that you possess a flair for the dramatic. Your tendency to center everything around yourself has been a constant theme. A chuckle escaped my lips, not due to its humor, for it embodied their essence so flawlessly. For a decade, I have provided them with financial support. And in that singular moment of need, I find myself turning the focus inward. He cast his gaze downward, his eyes tracing the contours of the earth beneath him. I chose not to engage in battle with them. I ought to have. I was certain of its reality. I gazed at the pictures, yet I remained seated in the car, turning away. Uncertainty lingered in the air. I couldn't discern whether he sought forgiveness or merely wished to unburden his soul. In any case, I remained silent. Comfort was not something I owed him. Then he struck me with something I truly didn't foresee. Last week, I took the step to move out. My gaze fell upon him. What is this? I have reached my conclusion. I gathered my belongings and departed. I have been residing with a girl I encountered through my professional endeavors. It was no longer within my capacity to continue. They speak of you as if you were a creature of nightmares, as if you have betrayed us. Yet, I perceive it clearly at this moment. You remain unchanged. You simply ceased allowing them to take. Words eluded me in that moment. In that fleeting moment, an odd sensation washed over me. Perhaps I wasn't as irrational as I thought. As if another pair of eyes had finally recognized it as well. He retrieved a creased sheet of paper from the depths of his jacket and extended it forward. This was penned by Susan Miller. Claimed it surpassed the experience of texting. I have not perused it. I did not take it. Not immediately. He lingered for a moment, the object cradled in his hand, before surrendering to the weight of indecision and setting it down on the bottom porch step. If you ever feel the need to engage in a genuine conversation, I am present, he uttered. I truly mean it. He turned and walked away. Did not await a reply. He vanished into the twilight, as if he understood the wisdom of restraint. I found myself gazing intently at the neatly creased paper before me. For an extended period, it remained untouched by my hands. I considered the possibility of setting it ablaze. Perhaps I would discard it without even glancing at its contents. Yet, I refrained, not at this moment. As the night deepened, my wife gently tucked our son into bed, and I found myself on the porch, unfolding the letter beneath the soft glow of the porch light. It lacked the essence of an apology. It was more dire. Within lay 6 printed receipts. Every expense incurred from a medical clinic. Every single one bore the name of Robert Miller. He had received a diagnosis of some kind. I was utterly unaware of what. Precisely, the descriptions carried an air of ambiguity, yet they were undeniably grave. On the final page, the last line was inscribed by hand. This is the reason we requested the funds. No explanation provided. Without any context provided. Only that solitary sentence. At this moment, a choice lay before me. He trailed behind me down the driveway in silence, as if he were uncertain how to navigate the presence of the me who was keeping him at bay. His footsteps lingered, as if he anticipated that I would pause and look back. I did not. I strolled to the boundary of the yard and paused, allowing the moment to unfold. The atmosphere was serene, punctuated only by the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant bark of a dog echoing through the stillness. At last, he found his voice. "They believe you are earnest this time." I shifted my gaze in his direction, calm and composed, merely weary. "I exist." He remained unyielding. "They are in a state of panic. Susan Miller is hardly speaking. Robert Miller is furious." Once more, Emily Miller is embracing her role as the victim. A brief, amused exhale escaped my nostrils. Astounding. "No, listen," he urged. "I did not arrive with the intention of pleading. I have come to share with you a piece of information that you may not be aware of." He hesitated, as if deliberating on whether to voice his thoughts. Then he uttered a remark that took me by surprise. I had every intention of arriving that evening. In the moment the flames erupted, I found myself already seated in the car. My gaze lingered on him. "What about it?" "Robert Miller has made a call, advised me against leaving. That brought me to a standstill." "Did he say you shouldn't come?" "When did you realize that my house was engulfed in flames?" He inclined his head in acknowledgement. "It was advised not to indulge in it. It seems you might have been seeking a bit of attention. You assured me you would be all right, that our presence would only exacerbate the situation." Susan Miller lent her support to him. Words eluded me in that moment. For a fleeting moment, I questioned whether I had truly grasped his words. Yet, he persevered. "They believed you were embellishing the truth. You mentioned that you'd manipulate everyone's emotions to extract money from them once more. It wasn't until a week later that they finally came to terms with the reality of the damage. At that point, they concluded it was too late to take any action." I remained quiet for an extended period. The photos came into view before their eyes. I declared at last, "My message has been read by them." "Indeed," he uttered. "They simply refused to accept it. It was said that you have a flair for the dramatic, always captivating those around you. Your tendency to center everything around yourself has been a constant theme." A chuckle escaped my lips, not due to its humor, for it encapsulated their essence so flawlessly. For a decade, I have provided them with financial support, and the one time I find myself in need, I am centering the narrative around myself. He cast his gaze downward, fixating on the earth beneath him. I chose not to engage in battle with them. I ought to have. I was certain of its authenticity. I gazed at the pictures, yet I remained seated in the car, turning away in resignation. I found myself uncertain whether he sought forgiveness or merely wished to unburden his soul. In any case, I remained silent. Comfort was not something I owed him. Then he struck me with something I truly hadn't anticipated. Last week marked the moment I stepped away from my former abode. My gaze fell upon him. "What is this? I have reached my limit. Gather my belongings that remain. I have been residing with a girl I encountered through my professional endeavors." I found myself unable to continue. "They speak of you as if you were a creature of the night, as if you have betrayed us. Yet, I perceive it clearly at this moment. You remain unchanged. You simply ceased allowing them to take." Words eluded me in that moment. In that fleeting moment, an odd sensation washed over me. Perhaps I wasn't as irrational as I thought, as if another had finally recognized it as well. He extracted a creased sheet of paper from the depths of his jacket and extended it forward. This was penned by Susan Miller. Claimed it surpassed the experience of texting. I have not perused it. I did not take it. Not immediately. He lingered for a moment, the object cradled in his hand, before surrendering to the weight of indecision and setting it down on the bottom porch step. "If you ever feel the need to engage in a genuine conversation, I am present," he uttered. "I truly mean it." He turned and walked away. Did not linger for an answer. He vanished into the twilight, as if he understood the wisdom of restraint. I found myself gazing intently at the neatly folded paper. For an extended period, I left it untouched. I contemplated the idea of setting it aflame. Perhaps I would discard it without even glancing at its contents. Yet, I refrained, not at this moment. As the night deepened, my wife lovingly tucked our son into bed. While I settled onto the porch, the soft glow of the light illuminating the letter I was about to unfold. It was not an expression of regret, it was even more dire. Within lay 6 printed receipts. Every fee incurred from a medical clinic. Every single one bore the name of Robert Miller. He had received a diagnosis of some kind. I was utterly at a loss, unsure of what it truly was. The descriptions carried an air of ambiguity, yet they were undeniably grave. On the final page, the last line was inscribed by hand. "This is the reason we requested the funds. There is no explanation provided." Without any context. Only that single sentence. At this moment, a choice lay before me. I'm at a loss for where to begin. It lingered in the air for a moment. I remained silent. I simply bided my time. It marked the inaugural moment in my existence when I witnessed Robert Miller's voice waver with uncertainty. From a young age, he possessed an unwavering confidence, speaking with the certainty of someone who never questioned his own judgments, even in moments of error. I was mistaken, he admitted. Once again, I found myself in disbelief at the words being spoken. I found it hard to accept that the fire was as severe as you described. I believed you were attempting to instill fear in us to provoke a response. I believed you were upset and expressing your frustration. I remained silent. Your mother held that belief as well. All of us did. We convinced ourselves that you would return, just as you always had before. I didn't bother to glance at the photos. I merely took it for granted. He came to a halt at that point. The sounds of the background reached my ears. A soft, persistent beep, a soft whisper of machinery. He found himself within the confines of a hospital room. In April, I received my diagnosis. We find ourselves at stage 3. For a time, I kept it to myself, not sharing with a soul. I hoped you wouldn't perceive my intentions as an attempt to manipulate your feelings. That brought a quiet, bitter laugh from me. Yet, we found ourselves devoid of choices. In our time of need, a message arrived from your mother, bearing the promise of assistance. At last, I uttered the words, "I understand." 101 missed calls. With a heavy sigh, he exhaled deeply. I am aware. A lengthy silence enveloped the moment, and then, at last, I misjudged you. This family has relied on your strength for many years. I perceived it as a flaw. I believed you were seeking to purchase affection. Yet, your efforts were solely aimed at keeping us united. You allowed me to continue, I declared. Not a single time. It was something I wished to avoid. I sought the iteration of you that held value. The expense never crossed my mind. Once more, silence envelops the space. Then he uttered a phrase that would linger in my memory for all eternity. "If you choose not to assist us again, I will comprehend." I felt compelled to express this before departing. Your insight was indeed correct. I found myself seated with the phone pressed to my ear, the gentle rays of the early morning sun streaming through the apartment window. My son was at the table behind me, munching on cereal, while my wife hummed a soft tune in the kitchen. In that moment, I came to the realization that the anger had dissipated. I had reached my limit. Not in a harsh, unfeeling manner. I've reached the point where I no longer require anything from them. Closure was not a necessity for me. Revenge was not a necessity for me. The need for an apology had faded away. The harm had been inflicted. The flames had swept through, leaving the land barren and desolate. All that remained for me was to reconstruct. I shall take care of the upcoming round of treatment, I declared. At one time, engaged directly with the clinic. Not a cent to anyone else. He remained silent for an extended period. "Thank you," he said. "Even now, I find myself unworthy of that." I ended the call before he had the chance to utter another word. In the weeks that followed, I settled the payment directly with the medical center, without any pomp or circumstance. Silence prevails. I have not received any word from my mother, not from my sibling, not from any other source. Ryan Miller maintained a careful distance, yet now and then, He would send a brief text to check in. He secured employment at a warehouse in Jersey City, New Jersey, and began renting a room from a friend. I offered him my best wishes, yet I refrained from extending an invitation to enter, not at this moment. Perhaps one day. At long last, my wife and I discovered a quaint little house nestled just beyond the city's hustle and bustle, simple yet distinctly ours. The initial nail I hammered into the wall resonated with a uniqueness unlike anything I had constructed previously. It seemed as though I was crafting a life that belonged solely to me, untouched by others, free from the burdens of guilt or obligation, and untainted by debt. One evening, my son inquired whether we would ever visit Grandma and Grandpa again. I gazed at him and declared, "We're about to create our own family now. Due to our possession of amidst the flames, in the stillness, through the treachery, and ultimately, in the act of release. Those who share your lineage may not necessarily be your true family. At times, they are merely the initial figures who reveal to you the essence of love's absence, and when the haze dissipates, the choice of whom to rebuild alongside lies in your hands. I made the right choice." The significant update: 8 months have passed since that fateful call. It has been 8 months since I found myself on that driveway alongside Ryan Miller. It has been 8 months since I last laid eyes on that letter. It has been 8 months since I transferred funds into a medical account, convincing myself that this marked the conclusion of that chapter. Our paths diverged, and I never exchanged another word with my father, not even to inquire about the outcome of the treatment. I thought that if it were truly dire, I would receive some sort of news. Should it not be so, he could find solace in the quietude he had fashioned. From that moment onward, everything transformed, and I don't intend that in the theatrical, climactic sense one might find in a film. What I mean is in that small, slow, and challenging manner. A sense of achievement that resonates deeply. We acquired a parcel of land beyond the picturesque confines of Hudson Valley, New York. Just the right distance to find solace, yet near enough to fulfill professional commitments. The terrain is uneven, presenting challenges for construction, and the soil is far from ideal for cultivating a garden. Yet, it belongs to us. With the guidance of my father-in-law and the assistance of a colleague, I took on the task of pouring the initial foundation slab myself. We are not in the process of hiring a contractor. We are constructing it, brick by brick. Without a mortgage, free from the constraints of time. Only sweat, wood, and patience endure. I now find myself laboring 6 days a week, splitting my time between a fabrication shop and the construction of my home. My hands perpetually ache, yet it is a satisfying sort of fatigue, the essence that arises from the act of creation rather than mere existence. My son now enjoys his own room in the rental house where we are residing until the construction is completed. He selected the hues for the walls of his future bedroom, azure and argent. He spoke to me of the sky and robots. My wife offered a warm smile and a knowing nod, her mind already drifting towards the perfect curtains. She has remained steadfast through it all. Not once did she request that I make contact with them. Not a single time did it cross my mind that perhaps I was being overly critical. She allows the silence to remain undisturbed, not from a place of anger, yet from a place of comprehension. Inquiries about my family occasionally come my way. Colleagues at the office, fellow inhabitants of the vicinity. I merely express, "We are not intimate. Let it rest there." No one shoves. Each person carries their own rendition of that tale. Mine simply features a house fire at its core. Occasionally, I find myself compelled to peruse their social media. Merely to observe, I seldom engage in such actions. I've come to understand that healing often requires us to refrain from glancing back, even if it's driven by curiosity. I'm uncertain whether my Robert Miller surpasses others. I wonder if my Susan Miller still perceives me as the antagonist. I am unaware of Emily Miller's residence, or whether Ryan Miller retained that position. I find myself indifferent, not born from animosity, only separation. For I am no longer the man who feels the need to demonstrate anything. I am not the safety net, the unseen pillar, the one who mends everything. At this moment, I am simply Jake Miller, A man with weary hands, a house still in progress, a family that embraced me in return, and at long last, tranquility. From all of it, one truth emerged for me. It's a thought that lingers in my mind whenever someone brings it up. Assisting family. In a family such as mine, money transcends its mere value. It is strength. It is mastery. Loyalty is taken for granted. Should I ever offer anything once more, it will be done in solitude, with clarity, inscribed, and with the acknowledgement that it does not equate to love. It is a transaction. If they are unable to embrace that reality, then they are not truly seeking assistance. They seek to possess you. I have mastered the art of declining without remorse now. It required the complete destruction of everything for me to understand that boundaries are constructed much like homes, one board at a time, only after the rot has been cleared away.